In this episode of the Awaken podcast, we're going to share with you how you can become more magnetic and attract more of what you want. So if you've been wondering how you can work with the law of attraction and understand how to co-create with practices like Awakened Breathwork and Meditation to manifest more of your desires into reality, if you've been wondering how to overcome the habit of forcing and pushing for things, not trusting the divine plan, this is the episode for you. This is something that Lucas and I are so passionate about and have really seen create massive transformation in our lives. So without further ado, let's dive in. Welcome to the Awaken podcast,
where we share practical spirituality for modern living.
Join us as we dive deep into conversations about healing and transformation.
Let's go. Cheers.
It's that time again.
Yeah.
We've got cacao and we're charging up ready for an epic conversation. So if you want to join us, let's take a moment. Let's take a deep breath.
This cacao's giving me life.
Let's tune in.
Taking a nice deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth if that feels good, and just landing right here, right now, ready for this conversation. And today's a juicy one.
Okay, cheers to that.
So what is becoming magnetic? How do we define that?
Well, I think I can contrast it with what is not being magnetic.
Yeah.
That's probably a good place to begin. So I can identify ebbs and flows throughout my life where I've been in a state of magnetism versus being in a state of what I call force or pushing or even repelling. And really what we're talking about here is how much are we able to sit in worthiness of our desires? How easily are we able to be a vibrational match and attract what we want to us?
Attract is another great word.
So then things are happening in our lives that are in alignment, like opportunities, doors are opening, blessings are showing up. We're feeling inspired. We're more creative. We're making great connections with a whole lot more ease and a whole lot less force. So yeah, like I said, the ebbs and flows for me, I can tell there are stages of my life where I've been really in the force, really in my mind. I've been thinking about how do I make this happen versus how do I become someone who would naturally allow this to happen. Would you say that that is the vibe?
Well, we live in an attraction-based universe and we're constantly attracting or repelling with our vibration, and we can't turn our vibration off. So it's constantly attracting, but are we attracting more of what we want or more of what we don't want? And for me, in the times where I feel separate from the field, where I feel separate from the ever-flowing abundance that's all around me, and I'm in a state of lack, and I observe that I'm in a state of lack, then there's this feeling of not being where I want to be and not having what I want to have, and feeling disconnected from source, feeling disconnected from the universe, feeling disconnected from God. I'm in the state of limitation and I'm not really feeling abundant at all. I'm feeling the opposite. I'm feeling like I'm in a state of lack. And feeling is the key word here when we're talking about becoming magnetic. What we're really talking about is stepping into an elevated state of feeling where you feel one with what you want to create.
Yeah, it is a feeling, and it's difficult to get your head around when you're in a feeling that is the opposite or the absence of that abundance, that feeling of worthiness, that feeling of magic, like you're tapped in, you're in the flow. When you're not there, it can feel so far away and unreasonable to even attempt to tap into that. I can recall so many times where we've had conversations where we coach each other a lot. So if one of us is out of the magnetic field and we're in that state of repelling or scarcity or fighting to make things happen, we will remind each other like, yo, you gotta do the work. You gotta tap in right now.
Gotta get
and in
back
those
in the
moments,
flow.
I know that there will often be a lot of resistance. It will be like, fuck off. Like, I don't want to hear that right now.
Or you
Or,
feel righteous in saying that
yeah.
there is a lack because your 3D environment is showing you that there's a lack of money, a lack of resources, a lack of the relationships you want, whatever the story is that you're trying to manifest more of,
You feel justified
you feel
in that
justified in it. But the key
because it's what
here,
you're focusing on.
exactly, and the key here is to shift your focus not on what you don't have, not on the absence of it, but to pivot your focus on what you actually want and place more of your attention and energy on that. And then allow yourself to celebrate your blessings or attune to your blessings in the present moment. Because when we're in that state of lack and scarcity, we are disconnected from our blessings. And life is always blessing us. But when we're in tune with that state of lack and there's not enough and things aren't working out and we're just placing our attention and energy on the negative, we feel disconnected from that state of abundance. So yeah, that's the key, is pivoting our attention and our focus. But like you said, that's easier said than done when we're in the thick of it and we have evidence of why life is not working out. And
Okay. Yes.
yeah.
So first little nugget here is that being magnetic is a state. It is a state of being. It is a feeling. It is something that you choose to cultivate from within.
Yep.
And then the second part of this, which I think we should unpack more, is if it's a feeling and we can acknowledge that when we're in the absence of that feeling, it is hard to tap in. How do we do that? Like, what are some practical things that help you when you're in a funk, when you're feeling negative and in lack and like things aren't flowing?
Yeah.
What helps you?
Well, first and foremost, it's the recognition of where I'm at. So recognizing that I'm in a state of lack. I'm in a state of feeling disconnected from the ever-flowing abundance that's all around me, disconnected from magic, I'm disconnected from joy, and I just don't feel like life is flowing in the way that, I want it to. So in recognizing that, then it's about, creating time for that state shift. And for me, that does come through Awakened Breathwork and meditation, and then pivoting my focus. So instead of placing my attention and energy on all the things that aren't working out and, how life isn't supporting me, I look to find evidence in my reality of how life is supporting me based on the blessings that already exist in my life, the things that are going right. And in doing that, I start to, practice gratitude and I shift my state. And in shifting my state, I start to see, wow, okay, life is truly supporting me and I do have evidence for that. Now, can I place my attention on the things that I want to create from the perspective of there's already a timeline, there's a version of me that's already created them. So can I tap into that? Can I feel that? Can I see that? Can I know that? And if I can, then that's me shifting into alignment with that vision. No longer am I feeling separate from it. I'm feeling in tune with it. So that's what it is for me. But it comes first in that recognition of I'm actually feeling out of alignment. I'm feeling disconnected from that.
Yeah, I agree with you. The same thing for me. I think the practices like doing Awaken Daily, the Awaken Breathwork practice that we share online, it's free for anyone who's not sure about what that is. Doing that for 5 minutes is a game changer to shift your state and open up. And I think it's about expanding your perception, because when we feel that things are hard, when we're not in the flow of that abundance, as you were describing, we can start to experience this narrowing of our attention. So we're focusing on the things that are directly in front of us that are usually evidence of how things aren't working out. And what we need in these moments is to expand our focus out to explore the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, like the glass half full, glass half empty, there is, as you touched on, always something to be grateful for. There's always things in your life that are evidence of what is working for you. And then there is evidence of how life isn't in flow, or how it's hard, or how you don't have as much of an advantage or privilege or ease as other people. And
Totally.
so whatever you're choosing to focus on there is going to influence your energy, your sense of inspiration, and your sense of
Personal
how
alignment.
supported you are by life. Like for me, I think a big thing is how connected do I feel? Like, do I feel as though I have a hotline to God, source, the universe? Do I feel like that higher intelligence cares about me and my life?
Yeah. Do you feel supported?
And when I'm in that connection, when I recognize that and I can open up to it, which is where the Awakened Daily comes in, or doing journaling practices or meditations, that's where I start to go, okay, you forgot. And what I've seen with you and I over the years, as well as our clients, is we all forget.
How easy is it to forget? Everyone tuning in at home, you'll recognize this. Like when life hits you with challenges, you just forget that you're connected into this infinite potential of loving energy that's always supporting you.
Yeah. We go to sleep again and again and again, and it's okay. If you notice that you are falling asleep and beginning to identify with the Maya, the illusion, the struggle that you're fed by whatever low vibrational sources of information and narrative you tap into, you have to choose to remember and wake up and pull yourself out of that trance, that hypnotic trance again and again and again.
Because it does have its own magnetism. Like you said, it is a hypnotic state.
Right. It will pull you in. And then suddenly you're like, oh, this is how life is. And it's a shrinking that occurs. So when we're talking about abundance, I feel like what we're speaking into for anyone who's like, this is kind of still a little abstract. When you are tapped in to the flow of information and energy, both within yourself and in the greater field of information that you exist within, there is exponentially more creativity, love, and energy, meaning life force available to you to get out into the world and do things that feel purposeful and meaningful and exciting to you. When you're living in a state of lack, not only do you have less ideas, you're less inspired, you're less creative.
You're repelling.
You are repelling, and you have less vital life force available to you to get shit done.
Yeah.
So it's like, do you want to
you're less
shrink and be here or out here?
Exactly. You're less magnetic when you're in those states. Yeah. Even with your interactions with people, because that flow of energy that comes through your heart is less flowing. You have less to give. And it's often through giving and circulating our energy that we start to, expand and step into, receiving more. It is a process of giving and receiving. So one of the things you said was really powerful. You said that it's a conscious choice to take yourself out of that kind of hypnotic trance when you find yourself in those lower vibrational states of lack. And I think that's so true, because they do have such a strong hold on us in the moment, because we can find that evidence of why it's true. But again, it does take that pattern interruption to be able to shift that state and then work towards something greater. So I have a question for you. Let's talk about the field and how the field operates. So my question is, from your perspective, how do you perceive the field?
So I perceive the field as being a fertile void. So if you imagine the most vast space, and this goes way beyond what our minds can fathom, because we're so programmed to look through the lens of space and time as a continuum to measure things, right? But if we imagine that there is a vast, infinite field of information that gave birth to everything that we see, that transcends space and time. So it exists now, and it holds the information of everything, meaning the first day of your life, before you existed, as well as the whole timeline of your life through to beyond it, as well as for everyone else around you, as well as all of the different ideas and potentials that are for not only this planet, but other planets.
So it's a non-physical space that exists beyond time, that holds all the information.
That gives birth to all things that exist materially. So that would be my understanding of the field. So
talk about that from like the level of energy and particle. How does that actually?
Well, I think what people don't understand is that we don't have anywhere near as much influence over matter when we work at the level of material focus alone versus working at the level of energy and interacting with the field. And what I've seen is that when we start to interact with the field consciously through practices like breath work and meditation and visualization and energy work, we can begin to enter into this conscious or intentional dance or co-creative act with this field of intelligence to influence the direction of our lives.
So the field influences particles, and the third dimension is made up of particles.
Exactly.
And being in connection with that field, we can start to influence the third dimension, which is always changing and shifting unless we're keeping ourselves in a holding pattern.
Exactly. And so I think, again, a part of how we all fall asleep, we get caught up in this identification with the material world that we're a part of, is we forget that energy is informing or instructing and programming matter. Meaning this field, this quantum field, if you want to call it that, is instructing your cells to vibrate at a certain frequency.
All matter.
As well as everything in your environment. So when we start to tap into the field, what we can do through practices, again, like meditation and breath work, is experience, and this has been shown through studies, that we can start to experience a heightened level of organization and coherence in our energy fields.
Within our hearts, within our brains.
Right. We can start to experience more coherent heart waves, brain waves. And then that's going to influence how our physiology is functioning.
The choices that we make and how we're feeling and the decisions that
and how people feel
around us. Totally. The doors that open and the doors that close.
So I think, to keep it simple, that's what I understand, the field and our relationship as being. And most people aren't doing that. And this is really what I want to remind everyone of who's listening in this conversation is it's available to you. The question is, are you proactively interacting with the field? Are you allowing it to organize and support your energy? And also, are you in a conversation with this intelligent field about what you want and allowing it to not only guide you in your daily actions, but also are you allowing it to guide your external world to become a match to what you've declared that you desire? Because it's as above, so below. It's as within, so without. This magic, if you want to call it that, because it seems like magic, means that when we focus on something and we align our energy with that desire, we can be out in the world and all of a sudden we didn't do anything. And we're like, whoa, that thing that I visualized is literally happening right now.
Yeah.
And I manifested that.
I'm magnetic, baby.
Yeah.
I'm attracting.
So I want to hear a little example from you maybe of a time where you've witnessed that co-creation with the field and magnetism in action.
So many times. The first thing I want to say, though, before I answer that is that what I see from a lot of people, and including myself, when we go into these states of feeling limited or coming from lack, is we force everything. We attempt to do everything ourselves, and it becomes hard, it becomes exhausting, and it's slow. It's a slow way of creating and, trying to make things happen. Action is needed, but when we only rely on action and we're disconnected from the quantum field and we're not being magnetic, we're not attracting, then things can become slow. Now, when we combined taking aligned action with stepping into co-creation with the field, meaning that we're a vibrational match for what we want to create, meaning we're seeing it, we're feeling it, we're connecting to it, believing in ourselves, and we know that it's not only possible to create it, we know that we're on the path to create it. Like our actions and our habits and the way we feel and our thoughts are in alignment with that vision. We're not disconnected from it. We're not in a space of feeling, like lack or not enough or scarcity. We're actually in connection with what we want and we are in alignment with it. And we're going out there and taking aligned action. That's where things start to speed up. So a real life example of this for me on a personal level, I've told this story many times before, but I haven't shared certain things around the story. So I think this would be cool to unpack this. Most people know that I supported and worked with Travis Barker to support him to fly again. And, there's stories of how this happened on the internet. I've spoken about it many times. I was, understanding that he was in a space of going through this accident and being traumatized by a plane accident that happened. And he hadn't flown for 13 years. Knew that I wanted to support him to fly again if that was what he wanted to do. And, I just knew that I could support him with that. And obviously to get access to Travis Barker isn't an easy thing. So I was visualizing every day from this perspective of it had already happened. And it wasn't about what I could get. It was about what I could give. And this is a really important distinction when it comes to manifestation. If you're purely acting on service to self ideas or agendas, then you're actually out of alignment with the whole. But if you can be in a space of connected to what wants to happen for the highest good, and I surrender that, and I'm here to be of service, and it's not about what I can get, it's about what I can give, then you're more in alignment with that flow of energy that wants to, support people to step into their potential and overcome fears.
Can I just highlight one thing there before you go on with the story, because it's so good? When you're creating from a state of service, you're also creating from the energy of generosity. And
you're circulating.
By embodying generosity, we are creating more of that. So if we're creating from this feeling of something is missing, something is lacking, I need this thing, this grasping, we're actually proliferating more of that energy in the field. Whereas generosity, like to like, generosity is going to actually proliferate more generosity.
Yep.
So no wonder when you're always thinking about how you can contribute and make someone's day and help someone have a huge breakthrough, life is going to give you more of that too.
100%. The field is always reflecting back to us our own vibration. It's like a mirror reflecting back to us, giving us more of what we focus on. So yeah, the time came where I declared it to the universe. I was visualizing not what I would get, but what I would give in that situation and how I could be of most support so he could conquer that fear and fly again, if that was, within his own desire of what he wanted. And it turns out that it was what he wanted. And there was this synchronistic moment that happened where I had been working with a client. He linked me with Travis, and Travis and I started talking. And this is where it gets interesting though, because Travis was apprehensive of doing this session. And he, at that point in his life, he hadn't decided that he wanted to fly again. He was still resistant to it. But then he met Courtney, and Courtney had other plans. She wanted to fly with him. And then he was wanting to start to work on that and overcome that fear. So that's when we eventually started to do the work together. But that was a year later from when I first started, having that conversation with them.
Right. And side note here, let's just note that all of these things had to fall into place in order for this vision to align, for this manifestation to actually happen. And I think sometimes people miss that maybe your brew is not fully cooked yet.
Yeah.
You think that you need this thing now, but your impatience is getting in the way of it manifesting in the way that would actually be so far superior and more aligned for everyone concerned.
Yeah.
So if you're willing to wait and trust that divine timing is a part of living a magnetic life, then you're trusting the process. And when it's meant, when it's, fully cooked, fully baked, then it all drops in and you're like, oh, whoa, okay, I could not have predicted that. Now he's with the love of his life, was his best friend. All of these things have happened. She wants to fly. He knows you. All the dots have connected, and it's a perfect lock and key situation.
Yeah. And keep in mind, this whole time I'd been visualizing him having the breakthroughs. So I'd already seen it in my mind's eye. I already knew what, we needed to work on. And I had studied his history of what he had been through. So I specifically was dialed into his trauma and the things that he had spoken about in interviews and how he was affected by it and how it was impacting his life. So when that time came, one interesting thing that happened within that year, there was multiple signs that he received that he told me about. So one sign, for example, and this is so crazy, this is how the field operates. or give people these little signs. He went to somewhere in Calabasas. He was with his daughter, and of all things that could happen, this feels so unbelievably mind-blowing to me. Someone came up to him and said, "Are you that guy that does breath work?" Because we look similar, so many people
Are
say
you
we look
Lucas
similar.
Mack?
Yeah, are you that guy that does breath work? He told me that, and I was like, dude, this is insane. But it's true. If you put something out to the universe and your intentions are clear,
Yeah.
and you're in alignment with the highest, then things have a funny way of, manifesting. So he received multiple signs like that, and he was like, fuck it, let's go. And then we started working together, and then, he started flying again, and
That's
he
so
overcame
funny.
that fear. But the reason for me sharing that story is, one, I could not open that door by myself. There's no way that I could, be in touch with Travis, and let alone for him to trust me and to say yes to a modality that he's never even heard about or has no idea who I am. So it needed to come through a referral, someone he trusted. So it came through a referral through someone he trusted who had worked with me previously, and they had good things to say. And then I was in alignment of my why. And it wasn't about what I could get, it was about what I could give. And I was patient and I surrendered to the process of it. Like you said, when the brew was right, the brew was right.
Yeah.
And then I went in and we made it happen. So that's how this works, becoming magnetic. You can't just go out there and force things and make things happen by yourself. It is a co-creation. There is things that you need to do, and there's things that you're going to have to surrender. And oftentimes we have to surrender the timing.
Okay, so with that being said, I want to tangent slightly here and talk a bit about the levels to this magnetism game, because one of the things that you and I are both very aware of is human design. And for anyone who's not aware of human design, it's like a kind of character, personality profiling similar to astrology. So it's encompassing energetics. It's based on your birth time and location and so on. And with human design, there are these different types, and the different types have different energy systems, which also means the way that you're interacting with other people, the way that you can attract and create opportunities, the way that your intuition is working, all of this has variance. And I'm a projector in human design, and you're a manifesting generator. And so sometimes when the topic of magnetism comes up, I know people say, oh, well, that's definitely a very projector thing to do, to be magnetic. And we can talk a bit about that and how that shows up, I think, in our relationship, because it is useful and interesting. And then the other part of it is, yes, and please don't box yourself in too hard to any particular type, because every one of us has the ability to be more magnetic, including you practice magnetism a lot. And especially lately, one of the things that I've heard you commenting is that you want to be even more in that, especially as, you are getting like older, as we all are. You're like, I am all about that. Like, I'm done with the forcing. I'm done with the pushing. Maybe it can work a little bit as a young person, but it is so much more potent and effective and inspiring to be sitting in the seat of your maximum magnetism.
Yeah, well, one of the things I see when you just start manifesting from the level of mind or ego, when you get that manifestation, there's an emptiness to it, because you haven't actually been in alignment with your heart and your higher self and, co-creating from that place. You've been in that process of forcing and trying to make things happen and hustling with your masculine energy, whether you're female or male, So it's like, in order to step into that magnetism, there has to be a state of attracting, being a vibrational match to what we're trying to call in and create. And that comes from this internal connection to the field, to this loving intelligence that's always supporting us.
And I think also on a very 3D level, there's another component to this that goes alongside that divine connection, which is becoming a potent embodied individual, like working on your inner game, your value. You are the asset.
Yes.
So are you investing in your mind, your knowledge? Are you investing in your body, your health, like your physical vitality and radiance?
Yep.
Are you investing in your emotional well-being so that you're a more joyful, pleasant person to be and
Mm.
to be around?
Yeah.
Are you working on your financial game, your relationship with your finances,
Mm.
and the relationships that you have with everyone around you? And all of this, they're like the pillars of our humanity
Mm.
and our self-worth and our standards. And I think one of the things that you and I both, we talk about it a lot and we observe it and work on it a lot, is raising our standards and also taking note of where other people are at with their standards,
Mm.
because we all know that we influence each other. And
Yeah.
we all know that if you're around someone that has really low standards, that can start to feel normal in a really concerning way
Mm.
and kind of bring down the magnetic factor for everyone. And we need to calibrate ourselves to something higher in order to be that attractor.
Totally. Yeah. And for you being a projector, you like to be invited into opportunities. So, one of the
Yeah.
things how we work in our relationship is I like to go out there and network and do our thing, and you do too. But there's been this theme where it's like, I'll call you into opportunities that are most aligned for you. And you'll either say no, or there'll be this expansion, this readiness that you'll be like, yes, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to invite you into these opportunities, and then you can feel into what feels like a full body yes for you. But as a manifesting generator, it's fun for me to just create and to manifest and, step into aligning these opportunities for both of us. And whether it's a match for you or not, that's up to you to feel into. But I think that's so cool that we have that. And then one of the
I
things that
agree.
I see you doing all the time that reminds me to do it is you'll leave the house for whatever you're doing, work, clients, meetings, whatever it is. You'll leave in this high vibrational state. And I can tell when you're in it and you're in this vortex of just attracting and being, a magnet for what you want. And you'll come home and you'll be like, all of these series of things happened in one day. Like you attracted this, you got a discount on this, you
Like
had
I
the
got a
best,
free Uber, I got a free
had the
facial.
best conversation with this person.
Yeah.
This opened a door. Oh, now you have this opportunity. There's like a whole series of things that happened to you in that day that are all mind blowing. And then
Yeah.
say I haven't been in that vibe, say I've been in a funk or my energy's been low, then it shows me like, damn, okay, hell has been attracting today. I've been repelling. Because I've had the opposite experience. I had a stink Uber driver, worst conversation. I didn't feel good
every light
today.
was red.
I was just in a constant state of lack. Everything was sucky. And then I come home and my day is the complete opposite to yours. So
Right.
that is a really like beautiful thing as a reflection to see in your partner, their state of being, and how it can remind you to, raise your standards and to start to shift your state of being when you are in that kind of low vibe.
Yeah. That's funny. I also want to add that one of the lessons that I've learned as a projector is you can't rely so heavily on your magnetism that you don't do anything to
Yeah.
put yourself out there.
Yep.
Like in order to be magnetic, like if you're a little candle or a lighthouse, if you aren't out in the world and visible to anyone, how do you expect to attract?
Yeah, visible is a key word. And flames don't lose their flame when they ignite another candle. You don't
Right.
lose anything.
Yeah,
So that's
getting
it.
out there and sharing. But this is what I try to practice. There's like this fine line that you learn to sort of dance with and master, and that is I will make myself visible. I know my worth, and I'm not afraid to share that. But I'm not coming from insecurity or ego in social situations and interacting from a place of, I need you to see me. I
Totally.
need to prove that I have something to offer. Like, classic thing that, you'll see if you're out at an event is the person who is in a state of pushing and forcing, and they're name dropping. They're talking all about themselves because they're trying to prove who they are, how great they are. They're not asking any questions. And I'll tell you, sometimes
They're repelling.
the doors open the most powerfully, I think, most of the time when you are interested in other people
We-
and you're present. Like
Yeah.
just being interested in other people and having good conversation skills and leading from your heart space.
Yeah.
That is magnetic.
Yeah.
Being sincere is
Yeah.
magnetic.
Totally. Being aware.
Right. Like how often have we gone to something where I'm like, hey, did anyone even ask you about you tonight?
Mostly
Nope.
not. Mostly people talk about themselves, which is really interesting.
Like they'll talk at you.
Totally. They won't
And that
ask you
is
things.
so repelling and uninspiring. And this is not to say that I need people to ask me about me,
No, but
but the best connections
the
are
flow
reciprocal.
of energy when it's
Yes,
giving
the
and
flow.
receiving and balance is where it's at. Because in the last episode, the guides, you did the channeling and they talked about that flow of energy that comes through our heart is it's not flowing. And you notice that with a lot of people when they're not practicing stepping into that space of being attracting and being a magnet for what they want. The flow of life force that is moving through their vessel is limited because it's usually about what I can get from that space because they feel separate. They feel cut off from, the ever flowing abundance that's all around them.
You know how else that shows up is with generosity with money. For example, when you go out and you have a dinner with friends and or family or whatever, and it's not an every time thing, okay? There's always exceptions. But something that I do tend to notice is people who I'm around who are generous. And I think generosity is so attractive.
Yeah, and that doesn't come down to how much money you have too, because I know for some listeners, they'll be like, oh yeah, if you can afford to pay for the bill, then that makes
Like,
sense.
great
But if
for
you
you.
can't, but I remember going out to like dinners or lunches and I knew for a fact that my friends had way more money than me. And I might have only enough money to pay for, that meal. And I just decide to shout everyone.
Same.
And I do it and I like empty my bank account because I know that I'm in a state of attracting and I'm going to manifest more. And then people that had way more than me, they felt that they were in a state of lack. And I really noticed that. Like,
That's happened so many times where after I've shouted something, I found out, and the person's like, no, I'm really broke right now. I can't. And then I find out through, passing conversations or whatever, that they've got like way more money than I have, or they've got this job going on. And I'm like, wow, it just shows how subjective the feelings of abundance and that connection to the divine supply really is.
100%. And I've seen that with a lot of high level people that we work with. They might be billionaires. That doesn't mean that they're in a state of feeling abundant. They might feel the opposite. They might feel like they're in a state of lack. And I see that all the time. It's not about how much money you have or how much money you don't have.
And also, this is another part of it too, is it's not just about money. It's about generosity of energy.
Yeah, that's the flow.
So one thing that is so simple that any one of us can do is just say thank you. When someone does something for you, say thank you.
Yep.
Acknowledge people for the effort that they're putting in and the ways that they contribute to your life. When I offer something up to someone and they don't even say thank you, I note that. And it's not about like I'm saying it to get an acknowledgement. It's just something that I take notice of as a character reference or a character trait thing where I'm like, I just am taking note right now that that person isn't really in a state of reciprocity on any level with me. And there is something kind of vampiric about that, which eventually leads to repelling. Whereas if someone, even if they're not paying me for something, if I'm giving I'm like, hey, I'm going to give you this as a gift, let's say. I don't want anything in return. Just this simple act of acknowledgement and being grateful and being present allows me to feel like, you know what, you're so cool. I'm gonna keep this flow going. Whereas when someone comes across as ungrateful, I'm like, I didn't really enjoy that exchange. I think I'm gonna go over here now.
Totally. And we're constantly offering our vibration to the field. It's an offering. So what are you offering? Are you in that state of generosity and circulation and giving, whether that's your love? It doesn't have to be talking about money on any level. We're just talking about what are you giving? What are you offering?
Yeah.
Are you
know what else too? I can say that like there's been so many simple things. People gifting. I remember people coming over and giving us a plant. Like, oh, I got this plant out of my garden and I put it in a pot and I've got it for you. Or I made you this little origami flower. Here you go.
Mm.
Or I picked this rose on the way here. Or I got this cake that I baked and I wanted to give you some of it. Or I wanted to share this poem that made me think of you, or
Yeah,
whatever
for
it
me,
might
it's like the
be.
little things. Like someone thinks about me, so they send me a text message or they send
Yeah.
me a voice note and they just let me know, like, hey, have a good day. I'm
Thinking of
thinking
you.
about you, sending love. It's the smallest ways in which we can give our energy to others that makes a huge difference. And you don't even know how much of a difference you can make in someone's life, because someone might be having a really negative day. They might be in a state of really judging themselves, or be in a state of lack, or feeling like life isn't working for them, or there might be real life challenges and shit going on in their life, and you just send them a bit of love and a little bit of energy, and that could be enough to like brighten up their day. So giving is a huge way that we can get into a state of alignment and start to attract and, become magnetic. And I think the key word that I just said is become, because I do think it is about becoming. It's about becoming the person that we came here to be. And that is a constant state of becoming. And oftentimes we can be so focused on the things that are not going right that we lose connection to the things that are going right. And in that space of becoming, we also have to be willing to let go of the old to create the new, right? And that's huge for people, because when you're keeping yourself stuck in a holding pattern, meaning you're doing the same things over and over again and you're getting the same results, but you want to create a change, you want to create more of what you want, then it's important that you look at the ways that you're showing up on a daily basis. And if you're showing up in a way that is in alignment with what you say you want, then you're doing your part. But if you're not, if your actions don't back up what you say you want, you're not living in alignment with it, then that's the place to start. So on a practical level, just checking in with yourself and your life and the things that you know that you want to create. And are you living in alignment with those things? Meaning, are you taking the right aligned action steps on a daily basis? Are you giving your attention and energy to the right thoughts on a daily basis that align with that vision? Do you believe in yourself?
That's something that you and I were talking about earlier, right? People really double down. If they're hungry for something, they'll double down on physical actions like, okay, I'm going to write this to-do list and do all of these things. But what about putting the effort into your thought forms?
Your energy.
Yeah, the energy that you're emitting, the emotional state that you're essentially like this body of water floating. You're like living in a soup of your own emotions and your own thought forms and your own energy. And when you take charge of what you are creating and you put more effort into that too,
And it does take
it,
effort.
it can really, really impact your state of being, as you said, which is then going to impact the choices that you make. And this is the wild thing that I've seen with you and I, with tapping in with Awaken Breathwork and getting into an aligned internal state before we take action in the outer world, is it will actually change the actions that you take. So you might have been like, oh, I'm going to do this whole to-do list. And then you tap in with your meditation, you do your Awaken Daily, and you're like, actually, I received guidance and I'm going to take this shortcut and work smarter instead of harder.
Yeah.
And I can get what I want, the essence of what I'm actually wanting, without doing all of this roundabout stuff that's actually just being busy. It's something I see all the time is people who, let's say, in having their own businesses, work really hard doing all of these things that aren't actually translating to much at all.
Yeah.
And if they were to strip back and go to the essence of what's actually value generating and inspiring and feels really purposeful, and be a bit more intuitively guided and strategic about it, they would be more magnetic and more effective, and they would have more energy available to do more of the right things rather than expending energy on kind of subpar or distracting or time wasting activity.
Totally. Just being more dialed in
Yeah.
and more connected to your why, and operating from that space of, being intuitively guided as a game changer. And you find that when you do that, then things start to speed up, things start to move in a more efficient way. And
I-
that's one of the main benefits to doing this. It's like efficiency, speeding things up.
Totally.
Things just start, doors just start opening and synchronicities start happening, and you'll start to notice these things happening in your life that once weren't happening. And that's so cool. That moment when you're like, I couldn't have made this happen. I couldn't have done this by myself. And it's happened in a way that is blowing my own mind. And I love that space of like, manifesting and being magnetic is when life opens doors for me. And I just say yes and I walk through those doors. It's so cool. And it's such a good feeling to know that you are divinely guided and to have the evidence and then to work with that evidence to, keep that momentum going. So cool.
Yeah. And there's a place that I can see where I wouldn't call it force. I would call it a firm level of conviction comes into the mix with being magnetic. So there are lots of times in our lives where I know we will make a hard decision that we're going to create something. Like, I am getting the money for this. I am going on that trip. I am having that event go ahead. I am doing this thing.
Yeah.
And there is a line in the sand and you step over that line and you're like, we're doing the thing. And I don't care what it takes. And it's like that firm instruction creates this reverberation of energy through the field.
Yeah.
And everything tends to align
It
to
does.
allow it to happen.
Yeah. When you make
have
things
that
non-negotiable, that you're not willing to not do this, that you're going to do your part and you're going to do whatever it takes to make this happen. You're sending a clear signal to the universe and the field like, hey, we're really going for this and I'm willing to do my part, but I need assistance. I need support to do this and I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to sacrifice, my time. I'm going to put more time, energy and effort into making all of this happen and I'm going for it. So that does create that clear signal. And like you said, the universe will always conspire to support us when we do that,
And remember, for everyone listening, you are the center of the magnet, which means that when you declare that you desire to create something, it will draw itself to you from the environment, yes, but the ideas and the resources will also draw themselves to you magnetically in the form of visions, feelings, thoughts, ideas. And so it's up to you to tap in. And what I see is that when we live with that level of conviction and creativity, the ideas will come. And all of a sudden you're like, I thought of another way to make money. I thought of another way to do that thing. I thought of another way to overcome that obstacle. You can get really scrappy and resourceful when you become that determined.
Totally. And the key with that is not being attached to outcomes, because those answers or that clarity might come in a different way than you originally thought. And if you were only looking at the original idea that you were thinking of, then you might miss it, because it might show up in a different way and through someone else, a different person or a different opportunity. Sometimes it's like, things have to be moved around or reorganized so you can actually get what you want.
Yes.
And that's important to notice, because if we're not paying attention to the signs and we're not living that intuitively guided life, we could so easily miss things.
Yeah.
Or we can manifest things and don't even realize that we've manifested it, because we're not actually in tune with it anymore. We've lost our way with it because it showed up in a different way to how we were originally thinking, but you actually got your core desire, like how you wanted to feel. You got that feeling. It just didn't show up in the way that you thought. And that's so important to be paying attention to.
The image that I'm getting in my mind is of, on Game Boy, like Tetris, where the blocks are falling and it's just endless. There's always more energy and information that's falling into our lives through the field, through our minds, through our emotions. There's always more and more and more. But as an active co-creator in the game, you are the one that's operating, moving those blocks and bricks to where they need to go in order to create something that's beautiful and makes sense and is actually all going to fit together to create the life that you want. And if we aren't taking responsibility, the blocks keep falling, energy keeps coming, shit keeps happening in your life, but you're not taking responsibility. And so that's why it feels like a mess. When you step into responsibility and you start moving energy with intention in your life, that is where the breakthroughs really start to happen. It's an active process. And I think this is maybe where some people get confused around what it means to magnetize with more ease. it doesn't mean sitting around doing nothing. It's like the Tetris Jedi that's so lasered in on the next thing that's coming, and you're ready and you know exactly where it's going to go to prepare you for the next thing and the next thing. And you know what you need to do. Like, you and I are continually thinking about who we want to be and how we want to feel and what we need to do to prepare, not just for tomorrow, not just for next month, but for the years to come.
Totally.
So that when those blocks or those opportunities land in our lives, like when we meet those clients that we want to have, or when we get onto that stage with X amount of people or whatever it is, we are ready.
Yeah.
Because we've seen it coming and we've got ourselves into the right
Yeah, we've
position.
been mentally rehearsing it for months, if not years. So when the time aligns, we are ready to go.
Yeah.
One of the things that you said the other day was really powerful. We were going for a walk and you said, you are where you are. Your life is the way it is based on your past choices.
Yeah, you have your past self to thank for where you are right now.
Yeah.
That was a truth bomb.
Yeah.
And your future self is relying on you.
Yeah.
You are magnetizing something in every moment.
I really like that. That's really powerful. You are where you are because your past self has made these series of choices repetitively over and over again, whatever choices that you've been making, and now your life is the way it is. But just like you've made those choices and your life is the way it is, you can also make new choices and you can start to co-create a new future, which is really fucking exciting.
It is. And it's up to you to wake up, unplug from any narratives that are no longer serving you.
Including keeping yourself in that holding pattern. So if you feel stuck in any area of your life, you're in a holding pattern. How you get out of that holding pattern is to create new choices that are actually in alignment with the results that you want and the life that you want to live. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy.
Yeah. In case it isn't clear already from this conversation, you have to start speaking life into yourself and showing up for yourself and claiming that you are worthy of what you desire, and understand that, like we were saying, you are where you are right now because of the choices of your past self. Some of those choices and some of the consequences of those choices you might not like.
Yep.
You might be feeling really uncomfortable, whether it be in your physical body or in your circumstances, in a couple of ways or in many ways.
That's how change begins.
And understand that even though you might feel uncomfortable in those areas, the only way to create a future where you feel comfortable and aligned and all those Tetris blocks are in the right places is to start and to feel it, see it, tap into it, and let it inform your choices.
Yeah. And by start, we mean moving outside the comfort zone because that's where growth happens. So if you've been existing in the comfort zone and you feel stuck in a certain area of your life, the key is to start moving outside your comfort zone and live outside your comfort zone. So you don't just do something once or twice or 3 times. You start living outside your comfort zone and you start making new choices. And then from there, you start creating a new reality moment by moment. It's uncomfortable. No one said it was going to be easy, but you are powerful and you can definitely make these positive changes in your life. You are courageous, you are strong, you are divinely guided, and you have everything that you need in this moment to make it happen. But it does take a willingness, a decision. It does take you believing in yourself and going after it. Like Hella said, it's about waking up and claiming what you want and then feeling worthy enough to go after it and make it your reality. And you're capable of doing all of that. And if not now, then when? If not now, then when?
Yeah. As we close out this conversation, my closing reminder is that when we talk about going after what you want in the context of living a more magnetic life, I want to remind you all that that doesn't look like having to do it all alone.
No.
And you get to put more effort into not just the physical exertion and action taking, although that is incredibly important, but put more effort into your inner game. Get your vision right, get it clear, claim it, own it, know that you're worthy of it. If you don't even know what you want, that's where you have to start. And then you have to start to cultivate that energy from within and become it. And when you walk in the world as someone who is that thing, you are an undeniable magnet to it, and people start to see you as that. The more that Lucas and I do that, the more we are met with,
The
oh, that
reflection.
is you. Yeah, of
Yep.
course that's you. Like everything that you envision, yeah, that's you. Definitely. That's who I know you to be. It becomes your natural state of being. And I can tell you that there was a time where the things that we envisioned that we can say now are normal were not. They
No,
did not feel natural.
no,
So
not at all.
don't ever get caught up in seeing someone who looks like they've got it figured out and think that it just was that way and always has been that way. It requires a commitment and work, but you can do it with more of an artful, co-creative approach. And the divine is the most intelligent, powerful force in the universe and beyond, and wants to help you to create an extraordinary life. So why would you not tap into
Yeah,
that
totally. And
to
we're all
help you out?
a work in progress. This isn't about being perfect. This is about starting wherever you are,
Mm.
exactly where you are, starting small. It's just about starting. And we're all a work in progress. I remember when like public speaking or just speaking on a camera was terrifying to me. I didn't like the way that I sounded. My voice felt shut down. I couldn't communicate in the way that I wanted to. I would stutter and say, but, like, if, all of these things, and I couldn't get sentences out in a way that just felt cohesive. And it was terrifying for me to think of like jumping on a podcast or speaking in front of people. I remember the first time I spoke publicly at our first workshop that we ever did in Australia. I was terrified. My hands were shaking and I was holding onto the microphone and I couldn't get the words out and I froze. I completely froze. And you had to take over.
Right. The you of back then would never have called yourself a speaker.
No, not at all. Not at all. 100% not. I had to really work at that and I'm still working on it, you know. There's so much improvement there, but I am leaps and bounds to where I was. You know, I am a new version of myself through taking action and through aligning with that, you know, energy of self-belief and knowing that I can do it and that I want to do it and I want to impact people and I want to impact people through my voice, through speaking, through making music, you know, just speaking my truth in general,
Yeah.
because that's what I came here to do, you know? So,
That's such a real thing, isn't it? I think speaking is a great example of how what we believe about ourselves impacts how it comes out.
mm,
There has been really interesting studies that I've seen where people stutter and say and like and but and so on far more often when their inner narrative is negative.
yeah,
We sabotage ourselves when we feel uncertain
yeah,
and we don't even realize that we're doing it.
totally. For
So
me, it
when
was
you get
feeling
that,
insecure.
yeah,
Like
when
I
you,
didn't feel good enough to speak and to speak my truth. Like, who wants to listen to me? So it just doesn't come out the right way.
exactly.
But when I feel worthy and I step into believing in myself and that I do have something to say, and it's not even actually about me, it's about being of service and I can get out of my own way. And that's what to be of service means. It means getting out of your own way for the greater good, knowing that you are worthy and you do have things to share and that your unique gifts are needed in the world. And that's so important for people to know that. So, like you said, as we wrap up this conversation, lastly, I want to remind people to practice finding real life evidence and attuning to your blessings in the way that you are supported by life, the universe, and God, and to allow those blessings to raise your vibration. So, when you're in a state of lack, when you're in a state of feeling disconnected from the ever flowing abundance that's all around you at all times, you use that pattern interference to attune to your blessings, practice gratitude, spiral up, get into alignment with what you want, become a vibrational match, feel it, know it, and see it, and then go out there and take aligned action to make it your reality.
Mm. We can hear it 1,000 times, and it might be the 1,001 time, or it might be the 2,000th time that we finally get it, that there might actually be something to this whole gratitude thing.
And the law of
So many
attraction.
people talk about it,
Yeah.
but what if being more grateful could be a major key to transform your life. So I
Mm.
am going to double down and agree with you on that. Let's really work on being more grateful, thankful, and aware of our blessings to
Yeah.
become more magnetic.
You were born magnetic. Let's go.